Hey, my friends, welcome to Daily Faith today. It seems like it's been ages since I've sat here because the last couple of months anyway, we've been working on a new studio. We have a facility here in Tennessee that we bought a church and the offices, etc. And the old platform, the old stage, we just demolished. And we are building a new studio. And above the studio, there you go, that's some video that you see where we are so far. And so the bottom part is going to be the new home of Daily Faith TV. And that's how it looks inside. All the sound deadening insulation is now in place. And they're coming to sheetrock it either today or tomorrow. And that's our control room right there, you can see there. And above that, I'm almost as excited about what's going to take upstairs rather than downstairs. And that there is no, that's still downstairs. Yeah, that's from the studio. Now upstairs, we are building Chrissy's Christmas cabin. She works all year long to bring orphans Christmas. She spends every day out in stores looking for bargains, shoes, jeans, clothes, toys. And we're segregating what she's doing away because it's getting swallowed up with all the stuff we're doing for Ukraine and everything else. And so you'll be able to come to her Christmas cabin and help her work, and you can send gifts and toys directly to her. You can sponsor Christmas boxes all year long. And that's going to be a whole new ministry outlet from my wife, Chrissy. She is, just to catch you up, she showed me a few weeks ago, she had a very bad bruise on her shoulder. And when we took her to a specialist, she had torn 3 of the tendons on her shoulder, a rotator cuff, and also her bicep muscle had been detached. And she has been working, lifting boxes, thousands of boxes. We have put out 4 containers to Ukraine this year, and she has loaded and wrapped most all of those things herself. It is a Herculean task that she does. And we took her down to a dear friend of mine, Stan Davis, is a surgeon in Huntsville, Alabama, and he performed the surgery on her, reattached all the ligaments. And she is progressing well. She's in a sling for the next couple of months, which is driving, if you knew Chrissy, that is driving her up the wall. 2 days after she had surgery, after being threatened by the doctor and me all the way home from Huntsville, I said, Chrissy, you've got to stop this. 2 days later, she's in the warehouse with her left hand, this one's still in the sling, and filling what we have in next door in the warehouse. We have boxes, tubs, with all the names of the kids that are in Vatra Village. And here she was, filling these different boxes, tubs, for each of the individual kids, still making up Christmas boxes. And I came up and I said, Chrissy, she says, I'm not moving this arm, so leave me alone. And at that point, I beat a hasty retreat and left her alone. And so we are having a busy summer this year. God is blessing us, and we thank every one of you that are part of the ministry of the Orphan Sands Daily Faith, however you're receiving this ministry. And help us by sharing this broadcast with your friends. You can be a great part of what we're doing by letting someone else know about Daily Faith. And we're just delighted for you to have you with us today. I've got a great friend with us today. Myles Holmes pastors a great church called Revive USA, and he has got a revelation. God's used this man in a phenomenal way in the political world, and you're going to be hearing some very interesting things that's taking place, and I am just delighted to have you with us. There's a wee bell on your screen. If you hit that bell every time we come on the air, you'll be notified, and we want you to join with us as often as you can, because Daily Faith is that word into your life in the name of Jesus. We're grateful to have you with us. I'm delighted you're with us. Welcome to Daily Faith. Hello, my friend. Welcome to Daily Faith. My name is Philip Cameron, and we are so glad you are joining us today. We have got a tremendous program. A great man of God, Myles Holmes, is with me. I've known Myles since we were both young boys. I met him when I was just an early teenager, believe it or not, in New Brunswick, Canada. And we have remained friends. I'd guess, boy, that's the scariest part of 50 years. Isn't that crazy? And we have both watched each other's ministries, and I've always been a great admirer of what he has done. And in the last cycle, not the one with Biden, but the one before, when Donald Trump ran for president the first time, Myles began to speak about things and see things, and he struck such a chord in people's minds and spirits that it grew. His numbers grew so big, over 2 million, I believe. I'll get him to correct me if I'm wrong in a few minutes, but he is with us today, and he's got some tremendous insights. Let me tell you something. We are living in the most critical days in American history. If Jesus doesn't come back 500 years from now, they will talk about the pivotal moments that America decided to become a socialist country, or America went back to what made it great in the first place. And that is the battle. It is as stark and as clear in my mind. If we don't have a come to Jesus moment, literally a come to Jesus moment, this country is doomed. I come from Great Britain. When Queen Victoria was the Queen, Great Britain was the greatest empire that's ever been. When I was a boy in school in Scotland, our maps, our world maps, the teacher used to say to us, all the pink countries, they were colored pink. All of the pink countries were part of the British Empire. India, Africa, Australia, Canada. You have no concept. And our country, the greatest in the world, the greatest beyond, to a factor of God knows, more so than America is today. And our country has slowly given away our faith and our heritage. And Great Britain now is nothing more than a 51st state of America. Our country is turning more and more Muslim every day because Muslims are having 10 and 15 kids, and we're having 0.2 or whatever it is. France, you're watching all these riots in France. What the underlying factor of those riots in France, and France is burning, is because they reckon in the next 20 years, France will be a Muslim country in the middle of Europe with nuclear weapons. We are living in unbelievably desperate times. And unless the church wakens up, I'm telling you now, we all sit and well, you shouldn't be talking about this, Philip. Okay, then we won't talk about it. And then what happens? You wake up and the country's gone to hell, completely to hell? It's time for the church to stir itself, and pastors and ministers to have enough courage to stand up for the convictions of the faith and say, this is the way to walk in it. And Myles Holmes is one of those men that has done this, and he is going to astonish you today by some of the things he's going to share with you and let you know now is the time to be a standard bearer for Christ. On top of that, we have, for those that are watching for the first time, we've got a great work, a mission work in Moldova and Ukraine, and most recently in Turkey. Moldova is one of those pivotal countries between the East and the West. Ukraine is battling for its life, being taken over by Russia. Moldova lives every day under the threat of being taken. As we speak right now, Russia is a couple of days away. At any time it wants, it can take over Moldova. And we have been there for 34 years, protecting young girls and boys from trafficking. Now, in America, there's a great big thing just now we're living in because of this movie, The Sound of Freedom. And I'm going to churches, and pastors are saying, wow, we've got to get involved in this. Well, welcome to the club. We've been doing this for decades, trying to save and rescue these kids. And it never fails to amaze me. A movie can do more than hundreds of hours of me talking about it. We have a place in Moldova called Vatra Village, where we take these young folk that are at risk of being trafficked. If you go after them once they've been trafficked, you rarely have success. 1 out of 100, they reckon, is what is successfully taken back from trafficking. They've been so destroyed by it that they're lost forever. What we've decided to do is to try and put our foot on the hose pipe of trafficking by having these homes, beautiful homes where young folk come. The only answer accept, of course, Jesus is the only answer. But the next answer to that is a bed, a place to sleep, a place to go to school, a place to be educated, a place to have love and the compassion of Christ shown to them, a place where they can call family. Most of the kids we deal with have never had family, or the family they've had has been an alcoholic father that's beat them half to death every day. And we are working at this moment as hard as we can to take more kids in. We have a home in Ukraine exactly the same way. We're looking just now at a whole new property and a whole new area of activity in the southern part of Moldova. We've been doing this the same way as we had a house in Ukraine for 6 years before Russia invaded Ukraine, and we're caring for ministry and being in that country. We've been there for 6 years. We're not new to the game. This is not the newest fad that we can all get excited about. We've been there. And after most other people have gone and folded the tent and gone away like they've done in Ukraine, we're still there. We're still feeding. We're still caring, because we're not just visiting. We live there. That's our home. And we just want you to pray about this. And apart from all of that, as we turn these orphans that come into us, from orphans to sons and daughters and then to missionaries, all through the summertime, we've had the most amazing season of ministry. And one of the things that really thrills me, we'll go to a village that has no gospel witness. No gospel witness whatsoever. And these orphans, or these former orphans, go and have camp and share the wonderful story of Jesus. And they just sent me a video the other day. There's no voice on it. It's just music and kids having a great time. The kids you see conducting the camp were once orphans. The kids you see enjoying the camp have never heard the gospel before. Watch this video. Can't you feel the joy in those kids hearing about Jesus for them? You imagine closing your eyes and putting your hands together and talking to a God you didn't even know existed until a few moments before. That's what our kids do all through the summertime. And while some are doing that, we have a constant care ministry that is caring for widows and broken families. And they also sent me this video. So here's the first one is about joy and the camps and reaching these kids. And this other one is our kids going to poverty-stricken families, alcohol destroyed. Watch this. to be his hand extended, reaching out to the oppressed. Amazing, amazing stuff. And you can be a part of that by being a sponsor of the Orphan's Hands. $1 a day won't change your world. $1 a day will change every single life you've seen in these videos. It won't change, it won't cost you hardship to give $1 a day. But we could not survive. We could not keep doing what we do. I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've never seen an organization. Every one of the homes at Vatra Village, the house parents were kids we rescued 17 years ago, now married with their own kids. And these kids now have grown up. They're my sons and daughters. The DNA that we put into them is still being worked out every day in the lives of these kids. And I would love you to help us. Your gift of any amount, plus if you'd like to help us monthly, it would be a tremendous help to us. It's really simple. The Orphan's Hands P.O. Box 2525, Clinton, Tennessee 37716. You can go to dailyfaith.tv and make a gift online right now. It's like wiring the money to us, and we can put that money right back into use. And also we've got an 800 number, 833 Daily Faith. Very simple, 833, and then just dial Daily Faith on your keypad of your device. And you can get to us. Any gift you give will allow us to continue being God's hand extended in one of the most brutal, dangerous parts of the world there is right now. Our kids, my son Andrew just came back from Ukraine and Turkey and Moldova. And as he slept at night in Ukraine, he heard the sirens go off. They heard the bombs, the missiles being blasted into the country. We have a regular feeding program there. We're not going anywhere. We're going to reach this people for Jesus if it's the last thing we do. And you can help us make this miracle happen. So please do so. And the numbers and the address will be on the screen. Let the Lord speak your heart. I'm excited to have Myles Holmes with me today. He's a tremendous man of God. I've known this guy all my life, all his life too, never mind. And he is a tremendous church called Revive USA. But I want him to talk to us today and educate us regarding what he sees taking place right now in the world around us, the political world, the spiritual world. And Myles, I am delighted to have you with me. Boy, it's good to, every time I see you, my heart dances because I just love being with you.
Love being with you as well, Philip. I was just thinking, I don't know of anyone I've followed since I was 9 years old, effective and powerful in ministry, that is either not in heaven or retired today.
Yeah.
You just don't quit. You don't have an off button. You don't have a snooze button. And that's why God continues to pour through you. If we put ourselves in a place where God can get through us, God will get it to us. Absolutely. And that's why you're being so effective in touching the nations for Christ. And I just want all of my followers on all of my pages. I was able to post this show on Trump and the Great America with 2 million followers, on Battle of the Republic with 105,000 followers. And I want my followers to know that this is a ministry that's been tested and tried, proven through more than one generation of being an effective channel of God's blessing and God's help and God's anointing. I can't, Philip, get that message off my head that the missionary heard years ago. You're telling me something, but I can't hear you because I'm hungry. Well, you're taking the gospel
the truth.
And food and blankets and help and encouragement and rescue and safety and hope. Oh my goodness. You can't live. You can live 3 days without water, right? 2 days maybe. But you can't live long without hope. And what you're doing to an entire generation is investing, seeding hope. And listen, if you've got anything, you can do $1 a day, $50 a month, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. You need to get it into a ministry that's literally not padding something, but listen. What I love about the Orphan Hands Ministries is they're not housing girls and boys in a dormitory with bunk beds in an industrial setting. They're taking these children out of the worst possible backgrounds and putting them in a beautiful home that my wife and I would be happy to live in. It's gorgeous. It's the best. Yes, absolutely. So please support this ministry. They've been faithful. They've never strayed into, they've kept the main thing, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Philip, I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful for your passion, and your wife and Andrew and the whole team there in Tennessee just is literally taking the world for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And our church supports you. We can't wait to get you
Yes.
back here again
So
next
generous.
year. And I'm delighted to say Philip Cameron is the real deal. You need to support everything that the Orphan Hands is doing.
What a fabulous commercial. My goodness, thank you so much. I don't
Well,
deserve
bless
this,
you.
Myles, but it's true.
Well, I
And,
do
and
know.
we're excited what God's using us to do.
I do know this. I'm 61 years of age. This Saturday, my wife and I will celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. And the verse that I can't get out of my spirit is, praise God. The verse that I can't get out of my spirit is, to whom much is given, much is required. Philip and I both have a godly heritage, parents who loved and served God and spoke the Spirit of God into our lives. And that's why we've got to respond. To whom much is given, much is required. So Philip and I both feel like we've got to do more than we've ever done before. We've got to be more effective, not just do more, but make sure it's more effective. So please contact this ministry. Let them know you're going to be a monthly supporter. You're going to do something significant, or you're going to do something daily, because this world needs Jesus. Jesus is coming soon. I believe it. I believe in the imminency of Christ's return. He could come back before this show is accomplished. But if he doesn't come back in 50 years, you and I are going to be leaving a legacy, a culture, a nation to our children. We're going to be leaving a world to our children. That's why we've got to be involved. We've got to be on the front lines fighting for freedom and liberty and truth, and the ability to keep doing what we're doing.
How do you see, I know you're involved in ministry, that's your primary calling, but God has used you to be almost prophetic in what you're seeing in the political world that we're living in. And what amazes me, that Donald Trump, usually when someone isn't elected in America, they kind of dissipate and everything breaks down and all kind of falls away under the sands of the political landscape. But it seems to me, hearing anyone I talk to, anyone I listen to on television, whether you're Democrat or Republican, there's only one name on anyone's lips, and that is Trump, because he is the white elephant in every room that every Democrat and every Republican is, because what he did and what he has said still resounds with the American population.
Absolutely. The Supreme Court is still making wonderful, righteous decisions based upon the fact that he put 3 constitutional judges in. Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee for the White House, and I'm fighting and praying he'll come back to the White House in 2024, despite all the weaponization of the FBI, the politicization of the Department of Injustice. And when you consider, if cocaine was found in the White House under Donald Trump, what kind of noise we've made. Cocaine is found in the Democrat White House, and they can't find who's responsible. What a joke. Anyhow, leaving that aside, we've got to fight for America, fight for freedom, fight for liberty. And it's amazing to me, Philip, the number one critics I have against what I do are other preachers, because they're so embarrassed that they cannot speak up. They cannot talk about transgender issues. They cannot talk about abortion. They cannot talk about the destruction of the American economy, all based upon the Democrat agenda. And I'm bold enough to say it, Philip, I hope it doesn't upset you, but I'm bold enough to say it, that the Democrat Party today is the Antichrist, demon-possessed party. I'm not talking about your grandfather's Democrat Party or even your dad's, but the Democrat Party today, the Democrat Party of 2023, who says there should be no limit on abortion. That's the worship of Moloch.
Until they're born.
There should be no, absolutely. They say there should be no limit on the lower age of when a child wants to change their gender. 2, 3, 4 years old, that's okay. That is absolute demonic possession. I do know, Philip, we all know that individuals can be demon-possessed. We know that pigs can be demon-possessed because Jesus cast them out into pigs, right? I've come to the conclusion that institutions can be demon-possessed, that organizations can be demon-possessed when they literally do everything they can to worship Moloch, Baal, and Ishtar, the goddess of sexuality and fertility in the Old Testament, the pagans and Israelis worship. And then you find out that Jesus, when he cast out demons, says, listen, Matthew chapter 42, when an unclean spirit goes out of a man, goes through dry places seeking rest and finds none, He says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, it finds it empty, swept, and in order. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits,
7 times, yep,
more wicked than himself. They enter and dwell there. The last state of that man is worse than the first. So shall it also be with this wicked generation. Wow. It seems to me that Jesus is saying a generation can be demon possessed. I'm not in that generation. I'm not in that sphere. I'm not demon possessed. But if a generation or an entity or an organization or an organism can be demon possessed, I would suggest today that the Democrat Party is actually possessed of demons, inspired by demons, led by demons. So if you're a Democrat, you cannot be a Christian. You got to get out of that party. And preacher, if you don't like that, it's because you're not biblical. I'm not political. I am biblical. I preach the word of God. I preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. I teach the truth that is found in the Bible. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not mine. Take it up with the Father in heaven.
Don't you see a turnaround in this thing? As I'm watching, it seems, they say that democracy always loses the first battle. Whenever we go to war, they always kick us sideways at the beginning, and then it takes this response, this second response against it. And what I'm watching in the country, it happened with this Bud Light commercial, this silly thing that they did. I mean, so stupid. Yes. And then what happens is they're so silly, they're so blinded by hatred and by this lust of power or whatever they have. Then you see, the next company does the same thing, and it's almost like lemmings going off the end of the cliff. They're running off the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
And yet, in the broad base center of America, I believe there's a repulsion coming, saying, hold on a second. I don't think a guy should be in the girls' showers. I don't think that after all the fighting for women's rights, and I believe a woman and a man should have equal rights completely. And what they're doing is, in their blindness, they're removing the equal rights that they've so long fought for, so that girls that have studied and trained and worked night and day to become an athlete, a runner, a high jumper, a swimmer, whatever part. And suddenly, they're so blinded by this idiocy that they have, they're willing to sacrifice all the young girls that have worked themselves to try to get some position in life, college, getting college grants and scholarships. They don't care about that. They're interested in their agenda first. And the church in America needs to make a clear line that this is what we stand for, and by God's, like Martin Luther said, I can do no other. And unless we get to that point, we push around by every wind of change that the devil wants to put upon us.
Yeah, exactly right. European countries are moving away from this transgender lunacy, where America is pushing stronger and far. Is the country more involved in the transgender mutilation of children than any other? That's the United States of America.
Absolutely.
We should be ashamed and embarrassed, and we need to repent.
And they can do it behind the parents' back.
Exactly.
Insanity.
We've got to fight this tooth and nail. I talked to a young man just a couple of months ago who was never a Trump supporter, but he said, I've got to tell you now, I need a MAGA hat because this is the one issue. He said abortion is an issue, but this transgender issue is what has brought him over to the MAGA side, because he said, this is worth getting a gun and standing on your front porch with. When you're coming after my girls, my little boy, to try to change their gender, we've got to fight up. This is civil war. It's definitely a spiritual war. If we don't we've got to wake up to fight for freedom and liberty and truth and gender. God made male and female, not 62 other versions.
If you're watching today, I want you to get in contact with Myles and his ministries, because he is absolutely a clear sounding bell in the days we're living in. He rings through the fog of religious terror and says, this is the way, walk in it. And you can get him, www.milesholmes.com. And are there any other way they can get a hold of you, Myles?
You can follow me on Battle of the Republic on Facebook, easy to find, Battle of the Republic, or Trump and the Great America.
Trump and the Great America. And we are out of time already. Every time I talk to you, our days fly past, because what you have to say is important. Tell me again, what is the most important thing that the church needs to be on the lookout in this next election sequence that's coming up? What are we going to guard ourselves for?
Well, never give up the fact that the gospel of Jesus Christ is central. Jesus Christ came to save the sinner. Never lose that fact. But the freedom to preach that gospel is at stake. Many folks will say, listen, I'm only going to preach the gospel. But if you don't have the freedom to preach the gospel, if you don't think this COVID thing was a test as to how they can shut down the churches, you were not paying attention. We've got to fight for liberty, fight for freedom, fight for the First and Second Amendments, and stand up and say, you're not going to settle. You're not going to shut me down. I've got pastor friends in Canada who have been in jail and may go back to prison because they will not sit down. And we've
that's
got
happening.
to have that kind of fighting spirit in America. It is happening.
I mean, let me tell you, in Canada, they have been sent to prison for standing for the gospel. And I don't know what kind of prime minister they have. I've never seen such a silly man in my life as Trudeau in my whole life. I mean, they say that you deserve the government that you vote for. And my Lord, if ever a country has got themselves a doozy, who are we to talk? We're in the mess we're in right now. But I believe that and I mean this, Myles, and I say this from the depth of my heart, I believe that America is on the cusp of seeing a mighty outpouring of the Holy Ghost. And the only thing that saved this country historically has been the church that stood up and said, no, 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 we've gone far enough. And I believe that it's time. Thank you so much for being with us today, Myles. We love you. We are behind you. And we support you. MylesHolmes.com, www.mylesholmes.com. Contact him. His church is in Collinsville, Illinois, Revive USA. He and his beautiful wife pastor that great church, and if ever you're in that area, I know you'd love to see him and be a part of what he's doing. Thank you again, Myles, for being with us in Daily Faith, and we look forward to seeing you here again. We're looking forward to being with you at the great church that you pastor. Thank you so much. Listen, folks, keep praying for America. We are living in the last days. We are in the fight of our lives for this nation. Patriots, you need to stand up and get back to the fact that America first. We can't save the world until America's strong. And we've flipped that thing backwards. So we love you. Thank you for watching Daily Faith. Pray for being part of our mission work that we're involved with. You are a miracle in the making. We love